They say love can survive distance, that when two souls are meant for each other, time becomes nothing. But what happens when one heart waits and the other learns how to forget? This is the story of Isabella, who waited 10 years for the man she loved, a man who promised to return, a man who said, "Don't give up on us." She didn't. She held on. She believed, until the truth shattered everything she thought she knew. The story begins in Maplewood, a quiet small town tucked between rolling hills and maple forests in the United States. A place where the air smells like pine, where everyone knows everyone and life moves slow. Isabella, just 17 then, grew up in a cozy yellow house at the end of Willow Lane. She was soft-spoken, artistic, the kind of girl who saw beauty in simple things. She met James at the town's annual summer street fair. He was new to Maplewood, having moved from the city with dreams bigger than the skyline he left behind. He was confident but gentle, the kind of presence that made people feel safe. They reached for the same strawberry lemonade at the vendor's stand. They laughed. They talked for hours. Something began that day, something real. They became inseparable. Walks by the river, notes passed in class, endless late-night phone calls, whispering dreams. Isabella believed she had found her forever, and James believed he had finally found home. But life had other plans. James' family came to Maplewood for only one reason: to escape the financial struggles that had followed them for years. But when things worsened, they decided to return to the city. Only this time, James wouldn't have the documentation needed to stay with Isabella. Immigration complications, layers of paperwork, lawyers, costs they didn't have. James had to leave, and no one could stop it. Before he left, he held Isabella's face in his hands and said, "James, wait for me. I'll come back, no matter how long it takes." She nodded, tears soft on her cheeks. The first year apart was filled with hope. They emailed every day, video calls, long letters sealed with pressed flowers. Distance tightened their love instead of weakening it. Everyone in Maplewood whispered, "They're soulmates." But as months turned into years, messages became shorter. Calls came less often. Sometimes weeks passed without a word. Isabella told herself, "He's just busy." She believed every excuse. But something was changing, slowly, quietly, painfully. Before we continue, if you're still here listening, it means this story has touched something in you. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story we share. Thank you, truly. Years have a way of reshaping a person, not all at once, but quietly, layer by layer. Isabella turned 19, then 21, then 25. Life moved. Birthdays, seasons, new neighbors, old memories, but her heart stayed still, fixed on the promise James made. In the town, people admired her loyalty, but some whispered, "She's wasting her youth." If he were coming back, he'd be here by now. But Isabella waited, because love, real love, doesn't break easily. One morning, a letter arrived with handwriting she recognized instantly. Her heart raced. She tore it open. James wrote, "Things are difficult here. I don't know where life is taking me, but I still think of you. I always will. No, I love you. No promise of return. Just distance disguised as thoughtfulness." Isabella pressed the letter to her chest, but something inside her trembled, because love was no longer close. It was fading. Life, however, kept offering her new beginnings. A local school offered her a job teaching art to children. She said yes, needing purpose, needing something to fill the quiet. One of the other teachers, Elias, began spending time with her. He was kind, steady, dependable, a man who saw her pain but didn't try to replace it. He simply stayed. But Isabella didn't let him in. Her heart was still living 10 years in the past. Months became years again. Calls from James turned into once a month, then every 3 months, then only on birthdays, then nothing. Isabella checked her phone every night. Every ringtone made her heart jump. Every silence made her feel smaller. One autumn afternoon, Isabella gathered all her courage and called him. The phone rang, and rang, and rang. Then he answered. but his voice was different. Older, tired, distant. James. Hey, Bella, it's been a while. Bella. He hadn't called her that in years. Isabella, soft. James, are you coming back? There was silence, long enough to break something inside her. James, exhaling slowly. I don't know. Not can't. Now we'll figure out. Not I still love you. Just uncertainty. The kind that means no. That night, Isabella cried for the girl she used to be, for the dreams she had wrapped around his promise, for the 10 years she couldn't get back. But she didn't hate him. She just finally understood. Sometimes love doesn't die. It just changes shape, becoming something softer, sadder, and farther away. 2 months later, news reached her through a friend's cousin who lived in the city. James had gotten married. He wasn't forced. He wasn't trapped. He had simply moved on. And the woman? Someone he met while rebuilding his life. Someone present. Someone real. The kind of love that grows from proximity, not memory. Isabella sat very still. She didn't sob. She didn't scream. She just finally felt empty. Not because he stopped loving her, but because she finally stopped waiting. Some heartbreaks don't explode. They dissolve. Isabella took all his letters, everyone she read 1,000 times, tied them with ribbon, placed them in a wooden box, and set them gently inside her closet. Not thrown away, not burned, just put to rest. She walked outside, letting the wind touch her face like an old friend. For the first time in 10 years, she breathed without waiting. Time, when allowed to heal, has a quiet way of stitching the heart back together. Isabella didn't forget James. She just learned to live without the ache of waiting. She poured herself into her art classes, letting color speak where words could not. Children laughed around her. Life became gentle again. Not perfect, but soft. Elias, the quiet, steady teacher, stayed near, never pushing, never asking, just existing in her world like a safe, open door. The town saw it. Everyone saw it. But healing is a slow river, and Isabella needed time to let the water settle. Then one evening, as summer settled over Maplewood with the hum of cicadas, her phone buzzed. A new email from a familiar name, James. Her breath caught, though her heart no longer jumped like it once did. She opened it. I'm coming back to Maplewood for a visit. I'd like to see you if you're willing. No explanation. No apology. Just a request. Isabella sat in silence. Years ago, she would have run. Now, she simply breathed. She typed back. Okay. Calm. Simple. Grown. The day James returned to Maplewood, the town looked the same, but Isabella didn't. She wasn't 17 anymore. James stood outside the town cafe, hands in his pockets, shoulders slightly hunched, as if unsure of the world beneath his own feet. He looked older, more tired. Life had carved something heavy into his eyes. And Isabella, she carried a softness that looked like strength. They sat across from each other. Two people with a decade of silence between them. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, James said softly, James, I didn't expect you to look exactly the same. Isabella smiled, but not the way she once had. Her smile now held history. Isabella, I'm not the same. He nodded slowly. James, I'm sorry for everything. I thought I could come back. I thought life would line up the way I planned. And then it didn't. His voice cracked, not with regret for losing her, but with regret for not choosing her when he could. Isabella listened, not angry, not bitter, just free. Isabella, I waited because I loved you. Truly, I don't regret that. But I'm not waiting anymore. There was silence, the kind heavy enough to be sacred. James finally said the words she had once begged the universe to hear. James, voice breaking, I should have fought harder for us. Isabella's eyes softened, her voice steady, clear. Isabella, we were young, we loved, and that's enough for me to hold without regret. But love doesn't always mean staying. James lowered his gaze. James, do you still love me? There was a time she would have answered without breathing. But now, she took her time. Isabella, I love who we were, but I'm choosing who I am now. And in that moment, James understood. He hadn't just lost her. He had lost the years he could have chosen her. They walked outside together. The sky was painted with gold and soft pinks, the kind of sunset that feels like an ending written by the universe itself. James reached for her hand, slowly, but she stepped back gently, not in rejection, but in farewell. Isabella, soft, almost a whisper. "Goodbye, James." She didn't ask him to stay, and he didn't ask her to follow. They simply parted. Two roads finally realizing they were never meant to meet again. Isabella didn't collapse. She didn't break. She walked home, slowly, feeling every breath like a return to herself. Inside, Elias was waiting outside her porch, not because he knew anything, but because he always seemed to be where her heart needed steady ground. He didn't ask what happened. He just offered her quiet company. And Isabella, for the first time, let someone stay. That night, Isabella wrote a letter. Not to send, not to give away, but to close. "Thank you for being my first great love. Thank you for teaching me how deeply I can feel. I release you, and I release the version of me who waited." She folded it, placed it in the same wooden box. And this time, she closed the lid without tears. Some loves don't last forever, not because they weren't real, but because they were meant to teach us how to grow. Isabella didn't lose love. She transformed because of it. And James didn't return to break her heart. He returned so she could finally take it back. If the story reached you, if you've ever waited for someone who didn't return, remember this. Love is not proven by how long you hold on, but by how gently you let go when it's time.